Hey everybody, welcome to a special episode of Rehash, a Web3 podcast. I'm your host, Diana Chen, and I'm so excited to share with you today an episode we recorded live in Denver on March 1st, 2024 as part of our first live event at ETH Denver. We'll be releasing the rest of these episodes over the next couple of weeks, and they'll show up as bonus episodes in your podcast feed. Hope you enjoy our live recording, and don't forget to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review to help others find out about Rehash. All right, everybody, welcome to our second podcast of the day. We are live from Denver. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm super excited for this panel. We have the creators of Crypto the Game, Dylan and Tyler, as well as two of our finalists with us. I'm super excited to get some behind the scenes info on how they thought about creating the game and then how the players played the game. I also played the game, but I didn't last very long. I only lasted until night 4. So really excited to talk to them and get some behind the scenes. Yeah, I know. I'm going to do better next season. But before we get into it, thank you to Layer 0 and Clusters for sponsoring this event. Layer 0 is an immutable, permissionless, and censorship-resistant protocol that connects blockchains. You can check them out at layer0.network. And Clusters is one name for all of your wallets and all of your chains. You can check them out and get your name at clusters.xyz. We also have drinks provided to us by Long Drink, which you can find in the coolers behind you over there. Feel free to grab those at any time, as well as the food on the table. So let's go ahead and get into it. So thank you to our wonderful guests for being here. Dylan Abrascato, creator of Crypto the Game, co-founder, as well as Tyler, another co-founder and a legendary dev, is what I hear through the grapevine. And then we have two of our finalists, Richie Bonilla, who you've actually heard on Rehash in the past before. Twice, I think, right? Twice. And Tina Dai, who is also a finalist of Crypto the Game, Season 1. Welcome, everyone. So Dylan actually has to go speak at ETH Denver in a little bit. So we're going to start with him and make sure we get his side of the story and get everything that he wants to say out before he has to leave. But I want to start with, first of all, Crypto the Game. I mean, if you haven't heard of it, it's Crypto Survivor in a sentence.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of a combination of Crypto Survivor, Hunger Games, Squid Game, but definitely heavily influenced by the show Survivor, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Was crypto a necessary element for Crypto the Game, do you think? Because I know you've been, from what I know of you, you've been a big Survivor fan since the very beginning, your whole life. I've heard that you've applied to every season, which I really hope you get on one of these seasons.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of the Amazing Race.
I've never even gotten a call back, so
maybe now you will.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe now you will. Exactly. I'm a big fan of Amazing Race, and I've applied to Amazing Race, so I totally understand like the obsession with one of those like reality race shows.
Yeah.
But I know you've been toying with this idea since back in your HQ trivia days. Even.
Yeah, I can kind of tell you the whole backstory.
Sure.
But, so I grew up watching Survivor, obsessed with Survivor. I had this CD-ROM game called like Survivor Ultimate in like 2002, and I played it every single day. And you picked like one of 3 cast members from season 2, and you played like tic-tac-toe on your computer, and it was like the most rudimentary form of the game that you saw on CTG. So I've kind of always wanted to play a fun internet survivor game. I started my career in TV and kind of stumbled upon tech by way of HQ Trivia. And if you don't remember HQ, it was a live mobile game show. And I joined that for the kind of grand vision of the future of TV and a live interactive TV network. So in the same way that HQ took a traditional game show and made it internet native and mobile and interactive, the same could have and should have been said for a Shark Tank format or a talent competition or, in my opinion, Survivor. So I pitched this idea internally at HQ for this massive internet survivor game. They're always like, yeah, maybe one day. But yeah, it's just been in the back of my mind. So the initial idea definitely had nothing to do with crypto. I think the reason why we chose to build it with and for crypto is for a number of reasons. One is I think the kind of like crypto Twitter audience that played season 1 was like the most ripe to spend the equivalent of like a couple $100s on a fun, novel internet game. I think it would have been a grind to convince, 400 Web 2 folks to buy into something like this. And then the other thing is just like, I personally think crypto makes everything more fun. So we saw the kind of like bare minimum of on-chain elements for season 1, but the goal has always been to get more on-chain each season, and it will unlock infinitely more fun elements. So you can imagine having the immunity idols actually be NFTs. You can imagine, your slot in the game being an NFT that burns or switches to a jury NFT when you get voted out. So these are all things we're currently toying with and building, and it's just going to only get more fun.
Amazing. Would I also be able to rent out my NFT? Like, say whenever season 2 comes out,
Yeah.
I know I have like a busy week or something and can't play.
Yeah.
Can I just rent it out for the season? Or could I even rent it out for one challenge? Like, the night that I lost was a Saturday, and I am not the most online person, and especially not on weekends. And I felt especially rugged when, after I got eliminated on Saturday night, it said Sunday is for touching grass.
Yes.
Almost made it.
Richie and I were in like a separate group chat. I know. And he was just like, damn, you're so close.
Yeah.
You just touched grass a day early.
Yeah, the Touch Grass Sunday was partially for players, but mostly for us.
You deserved
You
it.
needed
But I mean,
it.
could I, for instance, rent out my NFT for the weekends when I know I'm not going to be online?
So we're still finalizing the details of season 2, but in the current thinking, you mint an NFT, which is your slot in the game, and then similar to like hedging a parlay, you could hypothetically sell it at any point throughout the game for arguably more than you bought in for as you get closer to the pot. Technically, you could transfer it to someone else. They could log in as you, complete the challenge, as long as you, I guess, trust them to transfer it back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thinking is the owner of the NFT for season 2 and beyond, that will be your entry into the game.
Yeah, I think timing wise too, it makes a lot of sense because the market is a little bit back. And so people are less reluctant to ape in 0.1 ETH into playing a game that they knew nothing about before season 1 started.
Yeah.
And I think also, I mean, I wonder if you agree with this. Do you think that crypto has reached some sort of escape velocity where you feel comfortable launching a game that's built on crypto rails and having enough traction and enough of an audience playing the game?
Yeah, for sure. I think this format kind of was unique in the sense that it almost like went viral after entries locked. So we'll see. Who knows what's going to happen with season 2? But there was kind of so much FOMO around season 1 that I think season 2 is going to do inherently better. But yeah, it's an interesting format. And the reason why we basically had everyone refer folks to earn immunity before entries locked, because unlike something like HQ where you can just have someone play tomorrow that you refer, the entries had a lock and the tribes had to be assigned at like a certain time. But I definitely wasn't expecting 400 plus people to play season 1, so thank you all, and I'm glad you did. But yeah, I think it's only going to make for a more fun season 2.
I'm wondering too, what were your expectations coming into season 1?
I mean, I knew it was the most fun game I could imagine. I think both Ty and I love Survivor and kind of like built it for us. And just personally speaking, I've never acted with so much conviction with something in my entire life, because I knew as a Survivor fan and as someone that would want to play this thing, like what I would want to see in it. So I guess I thought maybe like 80 people would play and like friends and friends of friends and things like that. But I think I probably just like I mean, I don't want to sound too like cocky, but in the back of my mind, I knew this thing would do really well if people played. So I kind of always thought, and we always spoke about like season 1 would be for people like in our immediate circle, and then they would talk about how much fun it was, and season 2 would be like the season. So
I feel like season 2 is absolutely going to blow up now that people know
Yeah.
what it is. Because I think a lot of people were probably hesitant to ape into season 1, not knowing what it is at all.
Yeah.
But now that people have seen just how addicting the game is and how many people got involved, like season 2, I think is just going to blow up
For sure.
entirely.
Yeah.
That's my expectation. What about in terms of like your expectations with how people would play the game versus how they actually played it in terms of strategy or working together? Or
Yeah.
I know like one surprising thing was when everybody decided to band together and not vote anybody out,
Yes.
right? That was kind of a big one that happened
kept us
early
alive,
on.
for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think you were expecting that, were you?
No, I mean, I definitely thought that a game that is inherently built to eliminate each other and one person wins would be a lot more ruthless than it was. So I know, like, I love WAGMI, and like I know it's a big part of crypto culture, but I wasn't expecting a game with this format to be so WAGMI, if that makes sense. But so I'd say I definitely wasn't expecting the like abstaining from voting, but I also wasn't expecting just how 24/7 the game would be. I kind of thought people would come in around noon, play a round of Pac-Man. Maybe they had an alliance with someone they knew from Twitter. Then they'd come back on at 8 to cast their vote. And yeah, it just kind of like ballooned into this like 24/7, 10-day reality show that like I spoke to one player who told me one time he went on a run. He came back to over 3,000 unread messages in his tribe Telegram chat, and they were all like, "Oh, he's not serious. Like, he's out tonight." And
I believe it. That is literally how I got voted out. Is I just wanted to like go out to dinner with my husband, and apparently that was not allowed at all.
Not allowed. No.
And I have to say, I played more Pac-Man that day than I have in probably my whole life.
I think we saw. I don't know if it was Pac-Man or Flappy Bird. There were like 30 million clicks on our site or something insane.
It was insane how much you guys were playing that. We had no idea. We had to boost all of our servers and everything to handle it. It was a stressful couple days.
Yeah.
It was stressful, I think, for everyone, for you guys, for us. I mean, I was stressed out because I'm so bad at games, but I was like, I have to at least be average in my tribe or else they're going to see me as a weak link and vote me out because they're like, she's useless. She's not helping boost our average. So I kept playing. I literally played for hours trying to get my score to like average.
Well, I didn't know like who would get voted out, and it's like, if you're really good at the challenges, are you considered a threat and you should be eliminated, or if you're not good at challenges, you should be kept around? Because I think most Survivor fans had a feeling that the tribes would eventually merge and it would turn to an individual game. So like those that aren't as good at the challenges might be worth keeping around. So.
I always thought you kind of wanted to coast in the middle for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a target on your back, but you also don't want to be seen as a weak link. Like if you are like MIA, you're not active in the chats, you go for a run, God forbid,
I know,
and come back to 3,000 DMs.
Yeah, I mean, we can ask the finalists how the strategies they took, but it definitely seemed like the loudest voices externally were targets pretty early on.
Yes.
And the guy that won, I think he kind of like didn't make any enemies and played like a very wholesome game.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing I wanted to ask you about is how did you come up with the different challenges and the different like puzzles and stuff? Was that mostly you, or was it you and Tyler together, or?
I was going to say team effort, but thank you,
Mostly
Ty.
Dylan.
I would say, so my favorite part about Survivor is the diversity of the challenges. Mm-hmm. Some of them are mental challenges, some are physical challenges, some are social challenges. So like you could be the most physically fit player in the world, but like struggle with a puzzle in Survivor. So I wanted to make sure that there was just like a good combination of like on-chain crypto puzzles, digital and IRL scavenger hunts, and classic arcade games. So I wanted to make sure we just have like a bunch of different challenges. And then I don't know if I've told you this or spoken too much about it, but we were supposed to launch with Pac-Man, and Ty and Brian were like, and Brian, who's not here, but the other member of the team, are basically like needed some more time. And we were just like, what is like the least effort on product and engineering to like ship something the night before? And I was like, what if we just like put a clue in a text box and just like hide something IRL? So Ty lives in Brooklyn,
saved us.
And just like hid the clue. So we built the IRL scavenger hunt the night before it launched, and that was just like on a whim in a couple hours.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought that one was kind of bullshit because I just felt like people living in Brooklyn had an unfair advantage.
Yeah. So I will say the bookstore was like in on it, and if someone called and asked, they were prepared to give the answer over the phone.
I think I did see you tweet that.
We were expecting a bit of pushback there, but at the same time, like, yeah, we just had to make something that was kind of light on the product.
Yeah. As you guys were watching people play the game, did you have any predictions about who was going to win? Like, did you see people on Twitter? Did you get intel from players of the game and you were like, I think this person has a good shot?
So there's a guy named Christian who, I don't know if he was on either of your tribes, but he solved the first challenge. He like discovered the clue. We saw just like on the back end that he was the only player that had immunity, either himself or through the tribe or through referrals for the first 8 nights of the game. So he was like, he was playing a near perfect game from like a challenge, referral, and immunity standpoint. So like by Survivor standards, he was probably like the favorite. And then he became very vocal about not wanting someone who was going to split the pot to win. And I think in doing so, put a target on his back. So I, with his permission, ended up writing a Twitter thread on like why I thought he was playing a great game. And just because like on Survivor, someone like Jeff Probst would never let a run like that go unnoticed. But I also didn't want to put a target on his back if he was trying to stay under the radar. But yeah, he was like, I'm going home tonight anyway because of I've been so vocal. So rip it. But I thought he played like technically the best game, just from like an immunity standpoint.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it was each referral you made gets you 1 night of immunity. I thought that only applied to the first night.
No, so if you tweeted you were playing, you got immunity on night 1. If you referred 1 person, you got immunity on night 2. If you referred 5 people, you got immunity on night 3.
Oh.
And then the top 3 on the immunity leaderboard got immunity on night 5. And we also did a Twitter giveaway. So like he somehow did all of those things plus won multiple tribal immunity challenges.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he was very locked in.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bold move on his part at the end to be so vocal about not wanting to split the pot.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
I mean, in Survivor, you can't bribe other contestants. You can't split the pot. This idea, I think, did so well before people played it because of the tagline of like one person will win, basically. And the idea that one person won, you know, the equivalent of $100,000 plus is so enticing. And like, if it was like play a game and maybe double your money, I feel like that's just like such a boring game. So if I were playing and I were trying to win, I would not split the pot personally.
Interesting. What about you, Tyler? Would you have split it?
No chance.
No chance. Okay.
Going broke.
Okay. Looking back on season 1, what would you say were some of the most successful elements of it, other than just a lot more people than you expected playing? And then what were some of like the least successful that you might change about the game?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think the engagement I think I mentioned this, but the engagement like blew me away. Not just the number of people that played, but like the fact that they were fully engaged 24/7 nonstop. I'd say one thing we were expecting, but was kind of a bump in the road, was right before entries locked, one particular player signed up with like 170 plus bots. And it was very easy to spot because they all had 0 Twitter followers and were referring each other. But we made the very quick decision to disqualify those players just for season 1 because it was designed very specifically for human players. And yeah, it just took a few days to like verify that, decide whether or not to refund the person. We ultimately did. But that was probably the one thing that like kept me up at night.
That's what all those Etherscan transactions were, right? That people were digging into as one of the clues.
I think so. I mean, there were also a couple people that accidentally signed up twice or like sent 0.1 ETH without going through the onboarding flow after entries locked. So like we just like initiated a lot of refunds, and then there were hidden immunity idols on the site, which was a very fun thing that Ty shipped the night before. But yeah, I felt bad for people that were like digging into refund transactions on Etherscan to like try to find clues, and I'm like,
I saw that happen.
I can't say it's hard because you want to like guide people on these puzzles, but you obviously can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very funny to watch people like. And
They dug
that's
into
literally
everything.
just a refund.
Yeah.
Literally everything, diving into the code and stuff. We were
I
blown
know.
away.
Yeah,
Wish we hid more, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, well, now you know for next season.
Now we know.
What about on the dev side? I know you were probably shipping day and night because it was always like constantly moving and shifting.
Yeah.
What do you think? Was there anything that you would change about season 2?
I think for season 1, we were really just getting the rails in place to run all of these. And one of the hardest things was just shipping, like you said, like day and night, minutes before challenges, like
every time the
before
countdown
voting.
was going down for a challenge to start, literally Ty and Brian were like pushing
changes.
Like almost every challenge was pushed right as the countdown.
It was a full
0,
sprint the entire time. It was unbelievable. So excited not to do that for season 2, hopefully. But no promises. So at least having the architecture in place, being able to really just kind of expand upon what we've already built. And we've already collected so much good feedback from all of the participants, which we're so grateful for. And so applying a lot of that, seeing what we can improve, and just, spending all of our time doing that before season 2 starts.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I want to get some of the finalist perspective too. So the 2 of you made it until the end of the game. Tina, you were actually in my tribe from the very beginning. And after I got voted off in night 4, which again, like not mad about, but this was an interesting thing I found too, is like, at least in the Silver Tribe, which is what we were in, whenever somebody got voted out, they were super gracious about it in the chat. Like no one was like F you in the chat, at least to everybody else. But I think definitely like people were upset about it too. And a lot of people were like, are you going to reveal who voted for who, like who voted out who? So, they can come after
that would have been super spicy if we knew.
Well, now that you have the anonymous confessional, everyone can go in and say who they voted for.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was Rich's idea, but
yeah, you guys should go and do that.
I don't even remember who I voted for.
As long as you didn't vote for me.
I did not.
I did not even think I was on the chopping block that night at all. And then all of a sudden, it was like last 5 minutes or not, or like less than that. I got 4 votes all of a sudden. And then afterwards, someone from our tribe DM'd me and was like, hey. And I like replied and I was like, hey, thanks for your support, whatever. And then they were like, oh no, I voted for you. I'm so sorry. I was like, why even bother DMing me that? And then they said like they had a separate side chat going that was like part of the Silver Tribe. Were you in that?
I don't think I was in that chat.
Okay, I definitely wasn't.
I definitely wasn't in that chat, but I think
so. There was a separate side chat for just Silver Tribe, and they were colluding on who to vote out, and like a whole separate thing was happening. So
I think if you got put on the board in the first part of the vote, you're most likely going to get voted out because people just want to like consolidate their votes.
That's what I thought, and I wasn't on the board at all until like the last 5 minutes.
End?
Yeah. So I was super confused about that. But for you guys, like, what was your strategy going into the game?
You want to go first?
Strategy is a big word for how I...
Did anyone have a strategy? I mean, I think we were all just as shocked as Dylan was about, like, how engaged people were, or at least I was. Like, I did not know that's what I was signing up for when I signed up.
Yeah, I think it's because there's so many people who tried so much harder than I thought they would that it made me try really hard.
Yeah.
I did the same thing you did, which is, like, for something like Pac-Man, I was like, I need to be at least above average. So I'm not going to get voted out.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it's truly, like, a function of luck.
Yeah. Did you contribute to solving any of the clues?
I tried.
Yeah. I didn't have much help on the first one, but then like in later puzzles, I was definitely much more involved.
Well, the final one was like an individual challenge, right?
Yeah.
I really tried hard to like collaborate with people on that one, but it was like some of this was also like way too technical for me. Like I felt really disadvantaged as a non-developer.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the least technical founder of all time, and I'm so bad at Flappy Bird. So like personally, I would have been terrible at the challenges. But I mean, you made it to the finale, so I don't necessarily think being bad at challenges was like. In fact, all of the folks that won individual immunity challenges were eliminated, other than the last one, which guaranteed the spot in the finale. So. Yeah, it could be a strategy for season 2 is to not win.
That last puzzle was incredibly fun. I got into like crypto through crypto puzzles.
Oh, amazing.
And so, but I never could solve any of them. Like I was in a community of people who were really good at solving them.
Yeah.
So this was the first one that I had actually solved myself versus just spectating other people solve. And it was like, really basically the experience was like banging my head against the wall for the first like 2 hours, giving up for like 2 hours, and then coming back and solving it in the last 2 hours.
Did any of the clues help? I mean, I'm curious how
the Twitter stuff.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So like we were like your likes were funny because like it was like liking tweets from like years ago that were like random people on Twitter with the same words in them. And those were definitely helpful, and I think that's why it accelerated in like the last 2 hours. There was I had like a breakthrough, and then there was like some talk in a chat about something, and then on Twitter, and it was just like putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, it's hard to know. So we kind of like built these puzzles hoping they were solvable, but it's like what if someone solved it in 20 minutes, or what if someone never solved it and like we just kind of like shipped it and hoped. And then once we saw that like, a few hours in, folks were like getting really stuck, I was like, all right, I need to like start dropping hints and liking tweets and like guiding them. But
what I thought was like so funny, but also a little bit cruel, was the answer was literally in your Christian thread from the night before. And I even like Googled this lady's name. Yeah. And you're like, you needed her maiden name, and who would have known? But I was like, wow, that was the answer.
Yeah, there were some Easter eggs for sure. Just like the first challenge, if everyone didn't know where to go, and I made a LinkedIn profile for Crypto the Game, which is so boomer and web 2, and I kind of did it for to be funny, but like I just reposted this like McNally Jackson Chris Dixon post, and if you played the game and solved the puzzle, we hid an answer in one of Chris Dixon's books in McNally Jackson. Everyone was going on this crazy goose hunt, and all you had to do was check our LinkedIn for the answer like right away. So
I thought the funny thing was somebody in our Telegram chat mentioned that, like, could it be like an IRL clue? Like, is it that obvious? And just like everyone ignored him completely. Like it was just like nobody was like, oh yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
And then hours later when it was found, he like went back and like replied to that. I was like, this? Like,
Told you.
Yeah.
like what I suggested hours ago.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the most underappreciated things about the game was like the hosting and the way that you did these like soft little hints and things throughout. And if the players are paying attention, you're like hanging on your every word and digging through the code and like all this stuff, you know, like we were looking at the subdomains that were registered like in the Chrome network tag. We found Flappy Bird and we were like playing it, and every time we refreshed, the game would get better. And like we had, like, it was like little like things you guys had written, like, okay, make this pretty, like stuff like that. And we were like playing it because it was like on flp.cryptothegame.com. We're like, oh, it's Flappy Bird, holy shit.
Another thing I thought was interesting was like people that try to cheat in Pac-Man in those games. You called them out and they got disqualified? Or
no,
so
what happened was for the tribal arcade game challenges like Pac-Man, we took the average tribal score.
Right.
So if you cheated, we just zeroed you out, and we marked that you were one of the players that had a 0 score. So that brought down your tribe's average, and with 10 tribes, if you have a 0, it brings down your average, you're screwed.
Yeah.
I don't know if they all got voted out or not, but I would imagine that they did.
Is that something you guys were expecting to happen and you had already planned this, or was
Definitely
it like
expecting, but didn't really plan for it as much as it ended up happening. So it was kind of like an on-the-fly switch up and like push out some code to try to fix it and mitigate it. And that was a lot of Brian, our other co-founder, as well.
Okay.
Doing that.
Gotcha. I was gonna say you're trying to like mitigate this stuff and then push out new stuff at the same time.
Yeah,
it
but
just
I will
seems
say
like
I did learn a lot about like what is kind of like native to crypto. Like I was very anti-bots before season 1, and I got a lot of constructive feedback that like maybe a bots versus human season would be very So so I think there were definitely people that were excited about the bots in season 1 and like wanted to try to beat them. So I'm so much more open to something like that. Obviously, I don't want them to cheat in challenges, but like I'm much more open to the idea of like humans versus bots.
Who would you expect to win, a human or a bot?
A human, for sure.
For sure?
Yeah.
I think so.
You too?
Yeah.
Even as a dev?
Gang up against the bots.
Yeah.
We were blown away that people were like reacting so positively when we had a ton of bots in our system. And it ended up working out.
I think to a certain extent too, like it is almost more of a social game. Like you were saying, maybe the trick is to not win the challenges, or like you don't really have to be good at stuff. But I mean, I do think it's almost more of a social game than a like solving puzzles and stuff.
Yeah,
game. If you can play a good social game.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how the voting works.
Yeah.
And so in this game, because the voting was visible and other things like that, you could fly under the radar, and that was like good, because you sort of like one vote would mean you're out, right? And so if the voting is structured differently, or it's not visible while it's happening, like that would definitely change how you're going to play it. Also, the thing about like being inactive was like a really great way to like draw a circle around people who were eligible to get kicked out in a given thing. And I felt like people wanted a concrete story for what they should vote for. So like what I would try and do is like create a story like, oh, those people are all from the same previous tribe. So like, and then these people are all stragglers. And so like you guys are like pitted against each other, and I can create an alliance between you guys, and we could vote out those other people, you know, like, and so like those are like concrete stories that could be done. And then there was other narrative wars that were happening, which is different from Survivor, because when you're kicked off the island, you're kicked off the island.
Yeah.
But in this game, like Shlomes was out and Christian were out, and then they were still spinning up Telegram chats and like doing stuff. So they were still playing the game. And they were wrangling large groups of people and like sabotaging group chats, and it was like insane. And they weren't even in anymore. They were just playing it for the love of the game at that point. Yeah. And that's totally something I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, same. I think the fact that players stayed engaged after they got voted out was very, like I was expecting to have to like really remind people to cast their jury vote on the final day, but people like were very engaged the entire time, even if they got out. So
that's awesome. Did you worry at any point that it was encouraging people to be almost too online?
No, I mean, I'm like,
I'm speaking to the wrong audience here.
That's another reason why we wanted to build it for like our corner of the internet, because it's like I don't know, I'm so online. I feel like I'm assuming you all are too, if you played and love this game. So it's not for everyone, but it's for us for sure.
Totally. Yeah. I know you have to run soon, Dylan, but can you plug anything about season 2? I think it's going to be called Anon Island.
Yeah, Anon Island. It is going to be dropping at some point in the next month or so. It's tough because I feel like like at HQ Trivia, something that ultimately led to a lot of churn and our downfall was the fact that it was kind of the same thing every night. And we're trying to make this a lot like a TV show, and like seasonality works so well with TV. So I think if we had dropped season 2 right after season 1, you probably all would like not necessarily play and need a breather. But I'm also a realist, and I know that the consumer crypto attention span is very short, so we don't want to wait too long. So we're trying to like find that perfect balance. But yeah, it's going to be called Anon Island. We're definitely going to be leaning into this NFT-based entry mechanic I spoke about. We're definitely embracing this humans versus bots narrative. So it's going to be similar to Survivor. The like high-level idea will always be the same, but each season will be a new twist. So I'll leave it at that.
Is the humans versus bots thing going to be for Anon Island, or is that a future season?
You'll see.
Okay. Tyler, are you ready for another season as the dev that pushes everything?
I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Nice.
Cool.
Well,
thank you so much.
Dylan. I know you have to run. Good luck with your talk.
Yeah, of course.
I do want to pivot back over to you guys a little bit and just get a little bit more insight into. I know you said there wasn't much of a strategy. I certainly wasn't expecting what the game ended up being, which was like such high engagement, nonstop. Like I know, people struggled to work for a couple of weeks.
How many hours did you play?
Happening.
How
How many hours did y'all play?
I might be like one of the least online people in crypto, which is still like pretty online, but like that was ultimately my downfall. My biggest, worst day, whatever, was like Pac-Man day, just because I'm so bad at it and I like felt so much pressure to at least get an average score, so people didn't feel like I was dragging our team score down, that like I probably had to play for 3 hours just to get our team average. But I think we won that one. Like our team won that one. Our team average was super high and it kept going up, so then I kept like hitting above average and I was like, okay, phew, finally I'm done. And I see that like I was below average again, it kept going up, so I had to keep playing. So that was the most time-consuming day.
Yeah, I had a similar experience that day. Like they released the data afterwards about how many times people tried.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize, but I tried like 400 times. I was like, I'm never gonna play Pac-Man like ever again.
I'm never playing ever again. Like I'm retired officially. Were you playing Pac-Man a lot, or are you super good and you just crushed it?
The games I didn't play as much because you could like figure out the way it was, like what were the tricks, and some people were working together to figure that out. I like remapped the click on my mouse to like a keyboard key, so it made it much easier to do because your mouse won't move around.
Yeah.
And so that helped a lot. So I got like a score where I figured that was going to be like in the top 5 of my team, and then I spent the rest of the time building alliances. So like that was really where I spent most of my time, was figuring out what narrative I could tell about the people in the tribe based on their outside of game relationships or like previous tribe relationships, and then trying to sort of pitch different people within different group chats within the tribe on what story to buy for why to vote tonight.
From the beginning, did you guys think, I'm going to play a social game, I need to form alliances, this is how I'm going to survive? Or did you think, I'm really good at puzzles? I mean, Richie, I know you really like puzzles. Like, I'm really good at puzzles. I can just crush every challenge and make sure nobody votes me off because they need me as an asset. Like, what was your thought process? And then how did that change as you started playing?
I feel like there was always like this diminishing returns on the puzzles or on the the video games, because it was, hey, are we actually going to win tonight? Because if I'm looking around and I'm getting a sense for like, where are we on this? Are we going to solve this first? Are we making progress? If not, then we should actually be building alliances and like doing that part. And so with a video game, I'll try and get high scores as soon as possible. With the puzzles, some of them were solved really quickly. And so it was like, okay, well, like we have to switch to that. So I felt like it depended on the night, but I definitely was like, I can solve puzzles and like play games. So let me try and get immunity that way first.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Tina?
I think there was just so little information going into the game that I had no idea what to expect, right? And so I was sort of like, okay, let me just within my tribe try not to be the worst, last 10 people that are likely to be targeted. And then let me just like contribute to my like 20,000 telegrams that I've never had so many telegram groups in my life. It was like, we would have a silver one, then we have like a white one, then it's like a white silver tribe, and then like the female tribe. There's so many different tribes that ultimately you just had to like sort of navigate around these like social dynamics and like hopefully pick the one that's going to end up having the most like dominant number of people and dominant number of votes.
I was going to say, how did you decide who to actually form alliances with? And did you ever have to burn anyone or lie to anyone at any point?
I leaned heavily on in real life things. So it wasn't necessarily my friends, but like people who I knew each other. So I'd say like, well, you guys know each other and we know each other. So if we can all trust each other, then we have like social accountability outside the game to not screw each other over. And so I felt like if I could lean on that, that was like the thing. And like at one point I'm in a group chat with like partner of my lead investor, like another, you know, like it's like, and people that I know from like consumer crypto stuff, then some seed club people. And I'm like, okay, like you all know me, but you don't know each other, but like that's enough of a proxy because we don't know anybody else within the tribe. And so that was like big thing was leaning on in real life stuff because that's the only actual social accountability you could have.
Yeah.
And then there was a question marks like if we all make it to the end, you know, what are you gonna have to do? Are we gonna have to backstab each other?
Right.
I tried to play an honest game. There were definitely like some hostage situations that we had to create where we're like, you have to vote first, and you need to vote for this person, or else this whole plan doesn't work. And if you two people don't vote first, we're all just gonna vote you out. And like that was so we had a couple of those things where we like wanted to orchestrate to all vote for one person, and there was like definitely some like weird like tense like hostage-y kind of negotiation things that came up.
I think I played definitely like a more simple game than you played. I knew one person who joined like very well, but other than that had some loose connections with people who played the game. I think the alliance that ultimately I really trusted for whatever reason was our Silver Tribe chat. I felt like actually the Silver Tribe that got reorganized with me into the White Tribe, like that particular set of people I felt really comfortable creating alliances with going forward. But it's hard to say because there's definitely like we had this random female alliance that also sprung up, and you could just tell there was a lot of information leaking, and so you can like tell based on what you said and what's like shared after that which tribes to like trust and like try to invite to things. But yeah, I think like my trusted community was really just from whoever I was like talking with in these tribes, and then the people that I would like talk with the most in side chats.
Did you think the women's tribe was going to work? Because when I heard about that, it reminded, did you guys watch Squid Games, like the reality show, not the original one?
I did. Yeah.
So it reminded me of like when they try to form the women's tribe
and it worked for them.
Squid Game. It worked until someone didn't pick a female. So the idea was, it was like during a thing where each person that gets saved gets to save one more person until whoever is left at the end gets killed. And so the women all banded together and they were like, if we get picked, like we'll pick another female and let's just get all the women into the next round. And then at one point, you know, like someone was like, yeah, but my best friend is a male. Yeah. And so do I go with the female tribe, just like women power, whatever, or do I go with actually like my best friends who I really trust, who just happen to not be female? Yeah. Like, did it remind you of the Squid Game thing?
It reminded me so much of the Squid Game thing. So I think I'm pretty sure I was the only female left in the last 20 people.
No way.
I'm pretty sure like in the beginning there was like a much higher percentage of women, right? And so I think there was like a couple things that went wrong. Like first, the creation of the female tribe was like literally via Twitter, and then Dylan responded and tagged all the females. Like I think there was this like mass exodus of women that night. Basically, like I don't know, over half of the women were wiped out, I think, because they were like, oh, there's this female tribe happening.
Yeah.
And then I did think we ran into that particular dynamic where because everyone was like in different tribes, they had like besties of their own tribe. And so it wasn't like you could necessarily count on the female alliance being like the first and foremost alliance people were in. And so that dynamic definitely played out. And yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also was shocked to get invited to like certain alliances. Like Nick invited us, or I don't know actually who started that alliance, but somebody invited us to that group chat in the beginning before the tribes combined. It was in the beginning. Somebody was like, I imagine we're going to need alliances between tribes to get intel in between tribes. That was maybe day 2 of the game, wasn't it? Yeah. Or something. And I was not expecting that.
There was so much like psyops happening. Like we didn't even talk about these random people who are like Wilberts. There's like 2 Wilberts, and they're like, DM me if you want to live tonight. Like,
wow.
And there was another one that was like King Wilbert.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you have to bribe anybody or?
So one of the untold stories, I think, that I haven't heard really go anywhere else is that there was this big sort of public feud between the like splitters and then the anti-splitters. And they,
what are the splitters?
Like the people who would split the pot.
Splitters.
So someone circulated a Google
yeah.
Doc on like the game theoretical perfect way.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what you guys' opinion on that was.
Oh, no, you can't split it. Like
what did you think, Tina?
About
Tina, I feel like you're more of a team player.
No, the thing is like I thought about splitting it, but it's like actually a mid curve because it doesn't actually, you can't actually orchestrate an alliance towards the end that's going to split it up and make it worth it and still give you a tangible advantage in the end. So like you need a certain number of people. And so like that was definitely in my like back pocket, and like Spencer and I talked about how that would work, and it just never actually works out to like something that you could execute and get a tangible advantage. It would mostly be like splitting it, like agreeing to split and then still basically having no advantage. And then if you win, now you split, but the split didn't actually help you win. So that's how I felt like that whole conversation was just like a mid curve on the whole game. And it was like, this is the game theoretical best way to play, but it's not the funniest outcome. And that's the funniest outcome. The most interesting outcome is going to be the outcome. And like, that's kind of what happened, right? It was like the most unassuming player won. And I thought that was awesome, but it's also kind of like the most unexpected thing.
Yeah.
I was definitely not like anti-split. I was like, if I were to have won, I literally was like, I will commit half of the winnings into like pumping up this Crypto the Game meme coin, which to me was like not necessarily pot splitting, but it kind of is, right? In that if you like held a coin, you would benefit.
Yeah.
But also simultaneously, it's like I'm exchanging like an asset for an asset. So to me, like that was the more fair approach versus like, let me send everyone like 0.2 ETH or whatever who ended up voting for me.
I think, I think I would have been on the side of like if everybody was like, let's split it, I think I would have been like, okay, let's split it. Like, I wouldn't want to be the one person. Like, if Christian was like the only person that didn't want to split it, I think that would have been rough for him. But I think because he had enough of a backing, like people like you that, you know, were also anti-splitters.
Right, but this is the thing, is that there was this public split, pro splitters, anti-splitters, and then there was a smaller group chat and these group chats were all leaking each other's member lists.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But there was another group chat that had 0 leaks the whole time. So I'm not even sure how many people even know it existed.
I didn't know.
And that was the, like, in the end.
Tina, I feel like you played the most low key, like fly under the radar game.
Yeah, I
ever.
think
like,
I did.
Just like, you're like, I don't know what's happening. I just coasted along. Here I am in the finals.
I literally was like, I don't know how I made it, but I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I'm glad I could show everyone who, you know, doesn't have a distinct advantage that they could also somehow make it.
I absolutely love it. I love it. Any final thoughts on the game? Like advice for people that play season 2?
One piece of advice, in my opinion, is like, it's not the 0.1 ETH that you should consider as the, you know, investment of the game. It's like probably 40 hours of your time for that week.
Yeah, for
sure.
So
if you like can't be online, don't do it.
It's like Dylan said, like, it's not for everyone, right? And I honestly like wonder, I kind of waver on that border of like, I don't know if this is like for me. Like, I love being part of it and I like the game aspects of it, but just like the constantly online thing is tough.
I think if it comes out in the next month, I'm like, I don't even know. Like,
that I don't
another
know.
40 hours.
It's still ski season. It's still touching grass. Richie, what about you? Any advice for season 2 players, or how would you any advice for yourself, maybe even?
I looked at it as going to a conference. It was like, I'm going to go play a game. I'm going to meet people in the space. It has an entry fee, just like a conference, and it's going to be super fun. And you have a chance to meet and play and do this thing and participate in on-chain culture in a way that's pretty unique. And so that was sort of the way I went into it. I was like, I want to be a participant in what's happening in this space. I want to participate in this culture. I want to meet more people in this culture. So I'm just going to play the game and do that. I didn't expect to spend as much time as I did. But when I realized it was like day 3, I kind of realized what was actually happening. And I was like, oh, this is going to take all of my time.
Yeah.
And I figured I wouldn't make it to the end. So I was like, oh, I'll just put like a ton of my time into this for the next couple of days. I'll probably be out anyway, and then I'll just go back to work. And so I told my team, I'm like, think about it as like I'm going to a conference. I'm going to meet a bunch of people. It's going to be really weird. It's going to be questionably productive. And, you know, it'll be what it is. And then ended up like being, you know, 10 days. And so it would be like me waking up early, like super early, doing a bunch of work. And then at noon, so I'm like put a whole work day in before noon. Yep. And then at noon, like play the game until, you know, the voting happened, and then go to bed and like wake up the next day. And,
yeah.
Like,
no, I can't lie. I was like low key relieved when I was voted. I was upset to be voted out, but I was also like slightly relieved that I could get my life back after that. And then I just couldn't be, I know Dylan said a lot of people still like monitored closely the game. Yeah. I honestly like didn't pay attention at all once I was voted out. I was just like, I need to have my life back.
I mean, most of the game was in Telegram. Yeah. So you're just sitting there like on Telegram for hours.
Yeah, you know, and I imagine the longer you last in the game, the more Telegram chats you have. For sure.
Right. And you have like 10 different branches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like Telegram warfare.
Totally.
So like you have like this group that like finds the invite link for another group, and like 30 minutes before voting goes in and starts throwing memes in there so that they can't actually coordinate with each other.
Yeah.
And you don't know who was there before that happened. So it's like actual like looking into like how Telegram works and like what we can do to exploit other groups. And it was pretty insane.
Well, I'm really excited for season 2. I hope that we all three of us play, and maybe we can form a little alliance here or there. I mean, we kind of already were, Richie. I feel like we're Gucci.
Yeah.
And Tina now.
Yes, I trust
Join
you
our tribe.
completely.
I might go on.
I think I would go on too.
Really?
As a finalist, I feel like you have to go on.
It's better, I think, to be on. And it's
but don't
better
you
to
think? But don't you think that like having a face to your person got you to the finals, or no?
Mm-mm.
No.
Wow. Okay.
The guy who won didn't have a face.
True.
Right.
Okay.
I think I just had immunity on the last night.
Yeah.
That's what, or else I would have been out.
Start crafting a narrative from the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll start writing poetry now.
And you got to start spinning up your Anon Twitter so that you're like.
I already have one.
Great.
I gotta fluff it up. Yeah, I'm gonna start working on that now. Play the long game.
Yeah,
cool.
For sure.
Tell people where they can find you if they want to follow you and check you guys out for season 2.
Yeah, I'm at Richie Bonilla on Twitter and at Richie on Warpcast or Farcaster.
Cool. I'm at Howdai, HOWDAI at Farcaster, and then at Howdai27 on Twitter. And then the one last thing I wanted to say was like, Richie, what you said about all the like networking and all the amazing people you meet. I think we underemphasize like this was probably the best like crypto networking ever.
100%.
I mean, there's a lot of people here that I see and they're like, oh, wait, you're White Tribe. And I'm like, oh my God.
White Tribe. I know.
That's happened like this week. That's happened a number of times.
Yeah. I believe it.
Really
yeah.
fun.
I believe it. That was definitely one of my most positive takeaways as well. And then I forgot to get Dylan and Tyler to plug themselves as well, but you can find Dylan on Twitter at Dylan Abruscato. Tyler is at TJ Cages. Thank you so much for joining me on this panel. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you.
Tuning in. We'll pivot to the next one. Thanks, guys.